Welcome to this session on Harvard referencing. My name is Alvin Lam and I'll be guiding you through how to do Harvard referencing. So we have this agenda planned out. Why do Harvard referencing? Sources for referencing. What are the components of referencing? How to use citation and referencing. And hopefully we have time to cover some examples. So let's jump in onto the first topic. Why do Harvard referencing? Right? Why do referencing in the first place? To understand that, we need to look at the original purpose of why we advocate referencing. And the best place to look for the reason or the purpose is to look back at history. Harvard referencing is also known simply as Harvard style. So if you look online, you can search for Harvard referencing, Harvard style, or Harvard referencing style. And it is one of the most widely used citation style in the academia and professional writing world. So it traces back all the way to Harvard University. And over the years, it has gone through many rounds of development and updated. So it has rich history. So if you are interested to look at the birthplace of Harvard referencing, of course, you have to look at Harvard University. So it was born, Harvard referencing style was born in the late 19th century at Harvard University. And of course, over the years, it has supported students and researchers with a standardized method for citing sources in their written works, in their assignments, in their theses, and therefore ensuring proper attrition and intellectual honesty. So from an early development angle, this Harvard referencing style dates back all the way to 1881, right? And if you are interested, you can look for the original author, Edward Lawrence Mark, a professor of Greek literature at Harvard. And of course, things gets updated, so there were expansion beyond Harvard over the years. So there are different styles being developed, and there are also simplified and sometimes clarity given to the way references are made using the Harvard referencing way. So as the academic publishing world grew, especially in the 20th century, so did adoption for Harvard referencing, and in fact all styles of referencing across various disciplines and institutions. And with a diverse need for different academic fields, there comes a need for standardization and adaptation. And therefore, the one that we are using nowadays, which I will show you later on, right? It is in a standardized form and can be adapted for various types of sources. Now, we typically call the Harvard referencing style that we use today the modern Harvard referencing style, so that you can actually use it to reference sources such as ebooks, online journal articles or journal articles, websites, social media posts, or even blog posts, right? So these electronical sources, especially when we do our research online, using the internet nowadays, can actually be used for our citation and references. Now, let's take a look at different types of referencing style. There are a few popular ones, like for example, the APA style, which is often used in social sciences and the business world. The MLA style, right, used in the humanities discipline. Chicago style, which is a versatile kind of reference way for history and arts. Harvard referencing, which is something that we will focus on today, has wide applicability. And then IEEE style, which is used typically in engineering and computer sciences. Vancouver style, AMA style, Turabian style, Oxford style, which is used on history and humanities. And there are a few others like Blue Book, ACS style, and CSE style. So if you're interested, you can go online and do a bit more research on the different styles if you need. Now, to walk the talk, we actually provide you all the links and all the references that we use in this presentation right? So the next few slides are based on these references, and we add on to the good work already done by many other good researchers. So for example, you can see that AUK, right, 2017, we have a Harvard reference list block. So you can go there, take a look in depth. There are also blog posts, and then there are also references, reference guide, right, by Pierce and Shields. And there are also others like style guides for referencing. So there are various reasons why we need to do Harvard referencing or referencing for the method. First is to demonstrate thorough research in your chosen subject or subject matter. Second is to prevent allegations of plagiarism so that you actually show that your work is original. Third, enhance the persuasiveness and credibility of your arguments, right? So you use this previous work to support your arguments. Number four, showcase that your conclusions are founded on solid evidence. So you write on the good work of other people to provide the solid evidence. And number five, enable your audience to verify and follow your sources, because the reader, which is the audience of your theses, of your assignments, of your articles, may be interested to find out how you put your ideas together, you synthesize your idea together, and they may actually want to know more about the in-depth sources and read about them, right? And the last one will be to distinguish your unique ideas and viewpoints from those of others in the field, so you stand out, right? So your report stands out. Now let's look at the sources for referencing. In other words, where are the sources, right? Specifically, what are the sources that you can reference? So we have actually compiled a list here. Okay, let's take a look at where we can find the sources and how to reference them. So on the first column, we have the type of reference or references, followed by the description and examples. Of course, there are also guidelines on citations. First, you have books, right? Books like your textbooks, books in general. You will include the author, the title, publication date, and publisher. Journals and articles, e-journals, right? Typically, these journals are peer-reviewed, so they are more credible. So you could find them in JSTOR, Google Scholar, and the citation guidelines will require you to have the authors, the article titles, journal info, and DOI, right? Then we have websites and online articles. You will cite with authors, title, URL, and access date. Then we have databases and repository, right, which contain rich collection of research papers. And if you have access like ProQuest, right, you will be able to actually use them. Then we got publications from government, which may provide you valuable data and reports. Conference proceedings, dissertation and theses, newspaper and magazine. All right, for newspaper and magazine, you will cite the author, the article title, newspaper info, date, and page if you can be more specific, right? And then interviews and personal communications are also possible. Social media and blog posts, especially those that are from credible sources. Multimedia sources, right? And this could be very, very diverse, like maybe videos, all right, podcasts, documentaries. So you include the creator, also known as the author, title, the source type, the platform, and the URL. Encyclopedias and reference work, personal observation experiences, right? These can be some of the sources that you can use for your references. But of course, it is not an exhaustive list, right? You can find more online on the possible sources for referencing. Next, we will take a look at what are the components, all right? By adding together all the parts, what are the components of Harvard referencing. All right. So the component looks like this. Okay, you can actually find the entire paper talking about this particular component. So the citation link is here. Now let's take a look at the structure. First, you have the surname. In this case, Baron is the surname of the author, the initial of the author. And then we have a comma here, a punctuation, another comma here, the date, all right, the date of the paper, the title, business and the organization is the title. Now typically the title is in italics so that we can differentiate that, okay, from this point onward it is actually the title, and the title will start with a big letter capital, right? In this case business, the B is big letter, big capital letter. Of course the others will be no capital letter. Then we have a full stop here. Next we will have the publisher place, a colon here, and then the actual publisher, and this end with a full stop. And that is the entire components, all the components of Harvard referencing. Okay, I hope this is you find this useful. Now there are a few common things that typically students, if you do your assignment, you will actually use, right? The first is called the in-text citation. In other words, the citations are used within the main body of your assignment. All right. For example, you have in-text citation in your introduction of your paper, the body of your paper, and the conclusion of your paper. Then we will have the reference list, right? But before we jump the reference list, it's also important to emphasize that, you know, you use this in-text citation to support the concept or the writings. And sometimes you may even use the exact facing of other people's work with citation. All right, we will show you that how to do it later on. And then we have the reference list. The reference list should synchronize with the in-text citation. In other words, if you see the in-text citation, you should be able to see the source within the reference list. And the reference list will comprise of all the sources referenced in your assignment. Sometimes students may also use a bibliography, right? So a bibliography, in layman's words, will be a combination of citation and reference list to make it easy for the reader to actually find your source, all right, and where you use this source within the text of your assignment, all right? So at minimal, you should have in-text citation and a reference list, and optionally, you may have a bibliography. And this is typically positioned, the reference list and the bibliography will be positioned at the end of your assignment. Typically before your appendix if you have an appendix. All right, so hope you are okay so far. And next we'll take a look at how to use citation and referencing, right? Very specific guidelines on the how to. Okay, so first we take a look at the types of in-text citation. We have a few types. The first type is called quoting. You are directly incorporating an author's verbatim text. In other words, exact words, right? And this has to be in a certain format. Paraphrasing is basically you take somebody else's thoughts or arguments and express it in your own way. Then we have summarizing. Summarizing is condensing the primary points covered in a source using your own phrasing. In other words, using your own words and phrasing to condense the key points, for instance, from a source. So we have quoting, paraphrasing, and summarizing. Okay, so let's go in depth. Now you see here some quotation guidelines, right? So you will utilize these sparingly and solely when they are pertinent in your arguments. So insert the concise quotation within your text along with author's last date, publication date, and page number. All right. And then we enclose the brief quotes within the quotation marks. We'll show you examples soon, right? So you need to actually, if you quote as it is, you need to have the quotation marks. So if you are lengthier quotation, let's say you are taking the entire quotes with a few sentences, you need to set them in a separate paragraph with an indentation, devoid of quotation marks. All right, and remember, you still need to cite them. All right. Let's take a look at quoting examples. Example 1 is a short quote, also known as a direct quote, and then example 2 will be a long quote, also known as an indented paragraph. Now, source 1, right? Example 1, the study shows that chocolate offers no functional benefits to humans. Now, in your assignment, this is what you will do. You will quote you will basically cite the author's name. Then we have a open bracket, the year of the paper, 2015, and remember to put a comma here. All right. Followed by P, which stands for page number, and then a full stop here, and then 7 is the page number, and then close bracket. Stated that, all right, so we have a quotation mark here before chocolate, and then chocolate offers no functional benefits to human, and then a quotation mark here. All right, that's how we actually use a short quote, also known as a direct quote or direct quotation. Now for a long quote, all right, if you have the source like this, throughout many years studying the effects of chocolate on humans, the overarching finding has been that the chocolate creates a level of happiness and relief from stress that can only be matched by sunshine and annual leave, so on and so forth. In your assignment, all right, if you are going to use this as a long quote, you will have to paraphrase it, such as, after extensive research on the impact on chocolate on human beings, it becomes evident chocolate generates a unique sense of joy and stress relief, right? So they are basically word changes, and therefore you will have to basically cite them behind, right? After the first paragraph, right? And in fact, in this example, there are 2 paragraphs, followed by the research on the positive effect of chocolate is compelling. All right, so it's quite clear that these 2 paragraphs are related, and they are actually from this source called bucket, right? Bucket is the author's name, 2019 is the year, and these are from the page range, right? PP for page range from page 37 to page 38. And remember that when you do a citation for this, you will have an open bracket, a close bracket before the paragraph or the sentence full stop. Next, we'll take a look at the paraphrasing guidelines. So for paraphrasing, you will employ paraphrasing when expressing others' ideas or argument in your own words. To ensure that the essence of the author's work remains unaltered, in other words, it contains the same meaning, right? Cite the author's or the editor's last name, publication date, and the page numbers. Now let's take a look at the paraphrasing example. All right, let's say you have an original text like this. In summary, it is thus conceivable that consuming 40 grams of milk chocolate daily can enhance productivity by 65%, so on and so forth. When you paraphrase, it will actually read quite differently, but the same meaning. All right, so your assignment could be a study by Bucket and Woka. All right, the year of that publication, page number 170, close bracket, review that chocolate can enhance productivity and reduce stresses by 99%. Next, we have summarizing guidelines. Now, the summarizing guidelines will offer a concise overview of the primary points, also known as the key points found in an article, web page, report, chapter, or even a book. All right, so you already know where are the sources, so it can be it is not an exhaustive list here. Now, In summarizing, we want to omit the detailed information, but extract out the key information, also known as the primary points or the key points. With that, we will include the author's last name and the publication date. Now, if there are more than one authors, what do, right? Then you have to employ et alias, right? If you have a source author by, for example, John Smith, Mary Johnson, Robert Brown, and Sarah Lee, right? Can you tell me how many authors are there in this paper? You're right, there are 4, right? So it becomes Smith et alia in your subsequent citation, all right? So when a source, remember this, when a source include more than 3 authors, instead of listing all the names, right, maybe 5 or 6 authors, we will actually just list the first author and the rest will be et alia, which signifies and others. Okay, last but not least, we will look at reference lists and bibliography. If you can remember what I said about reference lists and bibliography, right? A bibliography will be like an extension of the reference list. So in your assignment, it is actually sufficient to have in-text citation and reference list, right? So each of the in-text citation should correspond to a particular reference in the reference list, right? So when the reader read your text, the body of your assignment, and is interested to find out where you actually get the reference through the citation, in-text citation, the reference should be found in the reference list. So you will organize the reference list into alphabetical order as well, right? Before your submission of your assignment, right? So when you have multiple sources that share the same author's name, arrange them alphabetically followed by the date of the publication, right? So a bibliography represents basically a reference list, but it encompasses all the in-text citation plus the references of the sources consulted during your research. So basically, a bibliography will make it easier, right, for the reader to find the match between your in-text citation and your reference list, and your references, yeah, in your reference list. Now the reference list, in the reference list, there are some guidelines, right? So step 1, right, you determine the type of the sources or the source that you need to reference. It could be books, journal articles, websites, reports, etc., right? And step 2, you adhere to the appropriate referencing rules for each source category. So if you are using Harvard referencing, you follow the Harvard referencing rules. Step 3, pay close attention to punctuation, including commas, brackets, periods, quotation marks, following the rules of each source type that we have already shown you. Okay, let's take a look at more examples as a bonus. Now, what I have provided you here is a checklist. All right, so whenever you are doing references or citations for any of these sources, it's good to go through this checklist. Now, for books and ebooks, you will have the authors or the editor, the year of publication in parentheses, title in italics, the edition, right? If it's a book, let's say a textbook, 3rd edition, then you will put 3rd edition. Place of publication, the publisher, right? And the same applies for ebooks. Journal articles, you will list the authors or the editors, the year of publication, the title of the article, right, in single quotation mark, title of the journal in italics, volume and issue number, right? Journals will have volume and issue numbers. Page numbers, right? Certain issues might have a lot of pages and you are only basically referencing certain page or certain pages. And of course, if it's an online journal article, you would have the URL and a DOI and the date where you access it, right? Web pages. For web page, you would have the author, the organization name, the web page title, all right? If you cannot find the author of a certain web page that you are referencing, you will have at least the web page title, the year the page was published or last updated, the title of the web page in italics if not used in the place of author, and available at certain URL, right? And the date when you access the URL. Now, there are also some instances where citation is unnecessary, right? In other words, you may not need to cite them. These are examples when, these are cases, right? Situation when you present your original ideas or research, right? Or it is a widely known fact sourced from numerous places. Or it could be when discussing readily observable phenomenon, right? Like for example, you know, in which direction does the sun set, for instance, right? Commonly recognized sayings that's already used throughout centuries, for instance. So before you write your articles or go ahead and do your assignments, it's good to carry these valuable tips with you for referencing. Always allocate sufficient time, right? Other than your writings, to have sufficient time to do referencing. Confirm the specific source types you need to reference, so you could actually have a good variety. Adhere to the prescribed referencing guidelines for each source type. Remember the table that we have presented to you. When uncertain, consult your teacher, instructor, or lecturer, right? Be meticulous about punctuation, right? There's a specific format in Harvard referencing, right? Remember, sometimes you need to have a full stop, sometimes you will have a comma, right? Maintain consistency in your referencing style, right? If you use Harvard referencing, use Harvard referencing for the whole paper. Review your institution referencing style, right? Different institution may actually advocate different version of Harvard referencing style. So check with your institution, right? What is the referencing style they advocate? If they have no particular version, then it will be the latest version of Harvard referencing. Now, with these tips for referencing, we hope that you have learned something about Harvard referencing. Thank you.